Kupo Moogles, TheShwantz27 here with another Coliseum 2 recap, and we had the Strago's Rod flag set starting with 6 to 12 lures and the ability to learn all 24 if you completed Fanatic's Tower and Ibbot's Rock, of which only 3 out of the 12 racers completed those 2 checks, and 8 of the 9 that did not do those checks already had instant access to the more powerful lures like Quasar and Grand Train. Since Rod is in the title of the flag set, the elemental rods were available for sale in shops and as a set reward for winning in the Coliseum, which 7 of the 12 racers did. A slight nerf to magic with only 1 or 2 spells per multi-summonable Esper meant looking to lures and rods in shops to supplement physical offensive builds. Let's dive into the individual matches to see how the strategies played out. Our first upper bracket match was DrDT versus Falconhit, starting with Capture Sabin and Sketch Celeste. While Falconhit grabbed the Valiant Knife for Sabin, a cheap Zen Thief Esper, and another Esper from Collapsing House, DrDT went to the Coliseum that didn't offer much for a trade and took a wipe during his fight, so he instead pivoted towards World of Ruin Thamasa for Burning House and found Illuminas in the shop for Celeste to go with an Economizer on Strago to cast Grand Train. Falconhit was able to punch through in the Coliseum for a set of rods, plus going back to grab a stack of fire rods from the World of Balance Nourish weapon shop. Both runners took down their respective bosses at Burning House and Barren Falls to grab an Esper apiece, giving Falconhit the 4-2 advantage, although DrDT got Fenrir from his check. After failing to sketch Katana Soul for Slayer Edge numerous times in the first fight, Falconhit eventually got an offering on the second round. However, then he ran into Magi Master at the end of the Phantom Train, causing multiple resets. While DrDT was fighting his own annoying boss in Doomgaze at the first Magitech Factory spot, then Tritalk without any fire magic for the second Magitech Factory boss. After waiting for his Strago with Grand Train to thaw out, DrDT was able to get through this wall. However, both Magitech Factory checks are dead, while Falconhit decided to take off the Moogle Charm in order to get some more levels, eventually powering through on the 5th attempt with an opening Pearl Rod, offering Valiant Knife and Grand Train. Although a big time loss, the 2 dead checks at Magitech meant Falconhit was still ahead of progression by an Esper as DrDT got Sword Tech Dance Gao at the end of the Minecart ride and Natural Magic Health Locket developed, unfortunately losing his dried meat all the way back up the Coliseum, so he had to go grab some from the airship and then went back to the Veldt in order to grab him for another small time loss. Falconhit obtained Slot Shadow from Mount Kultz and then Blitz Mog from Gal Manor. Falconhit decided to go to the Floating Continent at 5 characters, 5 Espers, getting 3 Espers, while DrDT used vanilla scan strats to figure out Magimaster's weakness after each Grand Train. DrDT got his 6th character with Shadow at Mount Kultz right after Falconhit got his Go-Go at Lone Wolf and Go Mode with Palador and Kefka at Narsh, but he only had 8 boss kills, deciding to take on Doom at the Toilet Atma spot prior to overloading Party 3 to clear out the middle. Unfortunately, DrDT's Go Mode was not at Tritalk Cliff, which would have put him nearly even with Falconhit starting in the middle path. However, an Esper on the ground at the Veldt Cave for his 11th boss meant he could skip to the statues after taking on the Toilet Atma spot himself. This allowed him to skip to the statues just as Falconhit was doing the same. However, DrDT still had to clear out the middle path, so he was 4.5 minutes behind heading into the final battle with Falconhit already on tier 2 with 1 character stopped and 2 others frozen and Shadow not knowing any fire spells. Falconhit kept a 1-tier lead using Life 3 to protect his team from Calmless, but it wasn't necessary with a block from Sabin and then using rods to skip past Fallen 1 for a win with a time of 1:19.06 against 1:25.29 from DrDT. The other upper bracket match pitted Zenobian against Taco Mage with Steel Lock and GP Rain Cyan and a lore list containing Aqua Rake, Arrow, and Blowfish with an Economizer in the World of Ruin Narsh weapon shop for usage in the early game, as well as Thunder Rods in the World of Balance Narsh weapon shop and Fire Rods in the World of Balance South Figaro weapon shop to crack. After doing some grinding on the way, Zenobian used Blowfish to his advantage in the South Figaro cave, getting yet another Economizer as Taco Mage headed into the loaded Coliseum, finding an Illumina for Green Cherry, Flame Shield for Tonic, Experience Egg for Dirk, and Atma Weapon for Echo Screen, also getting the breakable rods. Wanting access to the more powerful lures, Zenobian trekked up Fanatic's Tower with multiple types of rods and the Carbuncle Esper at the bottom, then headed over to Ibbot's Rock for Morph Setzer. Taco Mage followed suit to grab his fourth character. Umara was at Doma Siege, but so was Flame Eater, and we did not have the correct magic or rod, so this fight was slightly more challenging with only Quasar, while Taco Mage fought through Burning House, getting a Behemoth suit, and then Colin in for an Atma weapon, 2 more dead checks, while Zenobian went through Cyan's Dream for 3 Espers, fending off Magimaster with Berserk for the second boss, and then Taco Mage grabbed Bismarck from Daryl's Tomb. Runners traded places afterwards, with Zenobian being the first to head towards Umaro's check, taking on Dirt Dragon for a red cap, Genji Glove at Tritok Cliff, and Atma Weapon at Yeti Cave for even more dead checks in the entire loop. Yikes. This meant our 6th character had to be in Kefket Narsh, Phoenix Cave, or Mount Zozo, and the latter is where Zenobian decided to go to obtain Slot Tools Gao. Zenobian also headed to the Coliseum due to the close proximity, grabbing the Experience Egg and Illumina along with a set of rods before heading through the Serpent Trench, getting the Tritok Esper, as Taco Mage deduced that his next character is at Mount Zozo. A ghost sprite on the Veldt for Taco Mage meant that the next character was either in Phoenix Cave or Kefket Narsh, which is where Zenobian got Go-Go, which, in spite of being a 7th character, that then led to an 8th character Mog, and then that led to a 9th character Sabin at Lone Wolf, while Taco Mage was able to get his 8th and 9th Espers at the auction house to forego getting all of those extra characters. Zenobian actually got a 10th character Shadow at the Phantom Train in order to get his 12th boss for Kefka's Sour Skip, as Taco Mage headed into KT the long way, splitting up his party. Zenobian eventually grabbed another Esper at Gal Manor and Go Mode at Mount Colts after getting another dead check Atma weapon at Barren Falls. This allowed Zenobian to leapfrog past Taco Mage at the statue skip to take a slight lead, stepping up to the final boss while Taco Mage was taking down his last statue in the gauntlet at the goddess spot, which became a bit of a problem for him due to number 24 using wall change to nullify his best source of damage. Zenobian was heading into tier 3 as Taco Mage started the final battle, which hit his entire party with a W wind, forcing a recovery period prior to his big damage dealer Atma Weapon Genji Glove Lock getting taken out of the fight by Calmness. However, you don't need especially powerful characters to break rods, and that's what Zeno did. However, he took an ultimate counter after a 5398 rod toss, which meant that Kefka crossed under the 10,000 HP threshold. He had already queued up another rod break for 6343 damage, but Kefka was still alive and countered once again with Ultima after not healing his party in between, causing a wipe right at the precipice of defeating Final Kefka. This meant that Taco Mage would take on the lead, being on tier 2, getting some clutch blocks from Strago and Setzer to 10 hits after a quarter counter, and even more clutch blocks from Strago to thwart 2 Calmness attempts, and allowing him to advance to the upper bracket's last 2 competitors, 132.55 over Zenobian's 138.35. In the lower bracket, Boo took on Ensign Wesley with Natural Magic Capture Realm and Throw Celeste, along with Ice Rods in the World of Balance Narsh Weapon Shop. After grabbing Golem from the South Figaro basement, Ensign Wesley decided to head to the Opera House, of which the mobs were magic-resistant box sets, so he then instead turned to Burning House, where he ran into the same problem with Goblin and Figoliths, whereas Boo took those rods right to Esper Mountain, running into the Three Stooges, which resulted in a wipe from being on level 3 and not having the correct offense to use against Larry. Ensign Wesley then ran into Doomgaze at the end of the Burning House and wasn't able to get through his pool of HP, causing yet another reset. Boo was able to break through at the Opera House with Ninja Stars against those mobs and Bolt Edge for Inferno for that Phantom Esper. He then went to the Coliseum for a Pearl Rod. However, against an appropriate White Dragon, he had to opt for a reset. Meanwhile, Ensign Wesley got a dead check Pearl Lance from the Three Stooges fight at Esper Mountain that Boo had previously failed. Both runners then turned to the Magitech factory with Ensign Wesley grabbing an out-of-the-way Thunder Shield in a chest. After grabbing an Esper from the first fight, both ran into troubles right away with Doom at the next spot, with Realm taking a nap for Boo and 2 of 3 characters frozen for Wesley. Both ran into Siegfried on the minecart ride, which is always a ton of fun watching that cutscene. Blitz Terror was the reward at the end of the 3-part check, and both went right to Imperial Base and the Sealed Gate Cave for Fenrir. That's where our runners diverged again, with Boo going to fight the Spicy Chicken at the Welk Gate, and Ensign Wesley resetting out of the Pearl Rod Coliseum play. and he had not saved since completing the Magitech factory, setting him back a boss and a sealed gate cave, opting to not get the Esper at the end of the second time around, following Boo into the world of Balanced Narsh, where Welk was an Esper and Kefka at Narsh was a dead check Pearl Lance, which thankfully Ensign Wesley avoided. Boo's next stop was an Esper at Zozo Tower, and Ensign Wesley wasn't able to avoid all of the dead checks with an Aura Lance after Ebbett's Rock. Both then came together again at World of Ruin Jador, running into Siegfried for a second time at Hauser's Mansion. How awful. Natural Magic Health Sabin was painting a picture, and neither runner bothered checking the auction house with how few characters that were found thus far, instead going to the collapsing house for an Esper. Boo found Jump, Setzer, and Moblez, and Ensign Wesley loves Siegfried so much, he decided to go to the Phantom Train and see him for a third time by mistake. With only one more Esper to go and 11 bosses killed, Boo was hoping to kill 2 birds with 1 stone for Search the Skies, but was greeted by a gem box, followed by that dead check Esper Mountain before buying the Zen Thief Esper, and Ensign Wesley got a 6-character runic Mog at the bottom of Barren Falls. Getting annoyed by yet another dead check Force Armor at Mount Cults, Ensign Wesley went to Fanatic's Tower for a surefire Esper, as Boo was taking on a dragon for extra levels to learn Bum Rush prior to hopping into the Kefka Tower statue skip. Ensign Wesley bought the Zen Thief Esper and went back to the Sealed Gate Cave that he lost from the reset fiasco earlier, which meant he was fighting Tritok at the same time as Boo. However, he was 2 bosses behind and stepped up to Final Kefka 3 minutes after Boo did, who was already on Tier 2. Terra came in clutch with a Calmness block on the second attempt after her image status was nullified by a previous Calmness. That allowed Boo to take his full party into Final Kefka, finishing 135-23 over the 141-44 by Ensign Wesley. Jex Varox took on Mogray with Health Mog and Rage Setzer, as well as Grand Train and Blowfish to start. Both runners took some grind fights for some levels and headed to the Coliseum, where there wasn't much except for a Genji shield, which our runners got in addition to the set of rods. Jex Varox's next opponent, however, was in Tangier, and that meant a reset without saving prior to his Coliseum W, so Mogray jumped into the Burning House while Jexy was doing his refight, which took much longer the second time around, as Mogray was already at the boss when Jex Varox finally finished the battle. Although they had the Toe Cutter Rage for Shrapnel, Mogray ran into the Tap Dancer Woolly Mobs, which the latter was good for the Rage Command, and Golem Esper as the reward. Meanwhile, Jex Varox went to the World of Ruin Column Inn, getting the Phantom Esper and a Valiant Knife that all of his characters could equip, opting to search the skies, finding a goddess he couldn't deal with yet, and Mogray climbed Fanatics, killing Funbaba with that set of rods that he obtained from the Coliseum, grabbing yet another Esper at the bottom. Jex Varox headed into Daryl's Tomb, getting a 2-drop Minerva from Pugs, and a Steel Realm just ahead of Mogray, who did the in-tomb combination as well. Esper Mountain yielded Natural Magic Jump Locke, who replaced Mog in Jex Varox's party. Mogray headed to the World of Ruin Jador, finding an Ice Shield in a shop, a Thunder and Flame Shield and chests from Hauser's Mansion, along with the reward of another Esper, while Jex Varox cleared out the Casa del Fuego. There weren't any Espers for sale at the auction house, unfortunately, so Mogray couldn't get multiple value out of this Jador trip, instead going up to Lone Wolf for Gogo as his 5th character, and an Esper and Kefka at Narsh. Jex Varox got revenge on Goddess for the Stray Esper, putting him 1 behind Mogray. Both runners got their 6 characters next, with Natural Magic Dance Celeste at South Figaro Cave, and Locke for Mogray at Esper Mountain. Jex Varox let Gogo fall off the cliff, opting not to increase scaling, but Mogray was rewarded with Celeste after the South Figaro Cave spot. With only 10 bosses killed, getting his Go Mode Esper, Mogray was forced to overload Party 3 into Kefka's Tower first, while Jex Varox needed 2 more Espers to find. However, he had enough bosses for the KT skip when he got his 9th in Hauser's Mansion, but Mogray was already cleaning up 3 Stooges at the Poltergeist spot as Jex Varox hopped in at the skip, meaning he was still 2 bosses behind Mogray. The lead continued for Mogray as he was using Sourmouth on Tier 2 to nullify magic, and taking advantage of multi-summon with Bahamut's Sunflare as Jex Varox started his final fight. An opening W-Wind on Tier 3 after using Phantom to dodge 10 hits meant Mogray had to recover his party, but this would be beneficial to his Valiant Knife user, carving through the final parts of the battle with ease, taking the win 128-15 over Jex Varox's 133-08. DoubleDown and Winfrey Fitz squared off with GP Rain Morph Gao, along with Rage Cyan and access to both Quasar and Grand Train. DoubleDown grabbed an economizer for a drill in the Coliseum to bring those high-powered lures online right away, and found dried meat for the Velt check yielding Umaro before heading into the Serpent Trench netting Blitz Terra, while Winfrey Fitz got an offering, the economizer, and Minerva from the Coliseum. Both runners then headed to the treasure-dense checks, with DoubleDown having access to the Sealed Gate Cave, getting a Genji shield, and Winfrey Fitz going to Mount Zozo for an Esper teaching Bolt 3, but having to do the Walk of Shame without any warp stones and bypassing the dragon. Runners continued to diverge with an Esper from Dome of Siege for DoubleDown and Go-Go for Winfrey Fitz from Evet's Rock. The Ogres and level magics inside of the Burning House from Winfrey Fitz probably felt only slightly better than the Pearl Lance and Genji Glove at Welk and Kefket Norstead check combo for DoubleDown, but at least Winfrey Fitz got an Esper out of his situation. DoubleDown was eager for progression, opting for the guaranteed one at Fanatic's Tower, using the set of rods from the Coliseum to get past Doomgaze for an Esper, and Winfrey Fitz was using Grand Train plus Mimic to counter Goddess at Cyan's Dream. The other two parts of the Dream yielded 2 more Espers for 5 total, with only 5 characters, while DoubleDown got a 6-character Go-Go with only 2 Espers. He was able to catch up by following Winfrey Fitz into the Dream, but Fitz had gotten 3 more Espers in that time from Zen Thief, Tritok Cliff, and Yeti Cave, and the runners high-fived in the Narsh Mine tunnels as Fitz was going out. DoubleDown was going in to fight the Gold Dragon prior to grabbing those 2 Espers. Winfrey Fitz eventually found Terra at the end of the Serpent Trench for Go Mode as DoubleDown got his 8th Esper in the Zozo Tower. However, DoubleDown decided on Mobliz for his last Esper, which also got him his 11th and 12th bosses. That allowed him to use the KT skip, while Winfrey Fitz only had 7 boss kills and was not going to be able to use the skip at all. This meant that Winfrey Fitz was also behind in levels, with his highest party member at 30, so he overloaded the second party slot to defeat Dullahan at Toilet Atma for some more levels. DoubleDown grabbed the dragon to get Terra to level 42, so both she and Go-Go could use Bum Rush after the Duncan cutscene. Winfrey Fitz had to deal with Magimaster at the Inferno spot as DoubleDown hopped into KT at the statue skip, altogether missing this difficult boss battle, but Fitz was able to pull through with his whole party going up against the foe. DoubleDown was defeated by Atma Weapon at the same time Winfrey Fitz was able to push through. However, he had to warp out and fight another boss to get 12 just to get back to the statue skip, so it still meant that DoubleDown had a lead, defeating the last statue spot as Fitz was heading back into the tower. When Winfrey Fitz stepped up to the final battle, DoubleDown had half of Tier 2 dead, unfortunately losing Go-Go and almost Cyan prior to Tier 3. Winfrey Fitz lost Strago to a Shockwave death counter on Tier 1, and then DoubleDown lost both Strago and Cyan to Calmness, leaving him with only Terra, an underleveled Gao, and the corpse of Umaro for final Kefka. Terra was able to tank a Goner, but not a double Havoc Wing, and he had to reset, giving Winfrey Fitz a chance on Tier 2, and he limped into Tier 3 with his party in triple-digit HP. With only Pummel, GP Rain, and Go-Go casting Grand Train, it was a difficult uphill road against Girl, who kept using Pearl Wind to heal, and it allowed DoubleDown to catch up to Tier 3 at the same time. Access to all 4 party members plus Bum Rush eventually let DoubleDown sneak past Winfrey Fitz, this time both only losing Terra to Calmness. This would favor DoubleDown, who did not have 2 bench players for the final Kefka fight, and was able to use Quick to get the last attacks in during the charge up for Goner with a time of 1:43.22 to 1:45.48 in a super close race. The final lower bracket battle gave Drewlith and Green Monkey a start of Capture Sabin, Natural Magic Throw Lock with Grand Train on the lore list, as well as an Experience Egg in a chest and shops, but both runners couldn't get past the Katana Soul and the Monster in the Box in the classroom on the first try. Green Monkey used Sourmouth for the Self-Slayer Edge to get that offering to go along with a sniper. Drewlith scarfed down some spicy chicken at the South Figaro Cave for another Esper after getting one from the Narsh Weapon Shop, and both were in Imperial Camp simultaneously, but only for a short stint on Green Monkey's side, where the Ogre Covert mob made him reset, whereas it was merely an inconvenience for Drewlith. Both racers got an Esper from that check and dove off Barren Falls to find an economizer. Drewlith went back for revenge on Katana Soul and another Esper from Collapsing House's Green Monkey got GP Rain Celeste from Phantom Train after fending off a Doomgaze, killing half of his party at the start of the fight. Green Monkey got Morph Cyan from Mount Cults as Drew was taking on his own Doomgaze battle, similarly only having 2 of his 4 party members survive. They converged again at Magitech Factory after picking up some Ice Rods and Vector, with Natural Magic Rage Shadow at the end of the minecart ride after fighting Stray Cat in Imperial Camp made him an easy addition to the party. Green Monkey leaned into the Cyan checks with Valiant Knife at Doma Siege, and Drewlith without that character went to Gal Manor for Fixed Dice and then Velt Cave for an Esper. At 6 characters, 4 Espers, Green Monkey started to do the Floating Continent check, but abandoned it after the first forced encounter, opting for Cyan's Dream in need of only Espers, which made more sense since Dream 1 and 3 are Esper item rewards, whereas Drewlith, at 5 characters, 7 Espers, could benefit more from the character Esper rewards at Floating Continent 1 and 3, so that's where he decided to go. In the end, it worked out for both runners with 3 Espers for Green Monkey and Go Mode, 1 character, 2 Espers for Drewlith. Both got Kefka's Tower skip, with Green Monkey getting Go Mode at the Toilet Atmos spot after Drewlith bought a pair of Mirage Vests for his party to use in the final battle without any great calmness protection, and was also 3 bosses ahead of Green Monkey. Drewlith was moving on to Tier 3 as Green Monkey was starting the fight, and those Mirage Vests casting Image saved Shadow from calmness, along with tossing a bunch of rods at Kefka, allowed him to breeze through with a tournament best 1:12:09 to 1:20:42 in this super quick race. This round also marked the finals for Chupon's Pit, which had the match using the Locke's Knife flag set from the previous week. Shadow Sid and Keith McRox battled it out with Celeste Lore and Terra Runic to go with Locke with Steel. After picking up an Esper at the Narsh Weapon Shop, an Esper in South Figaro Prisoner, and an Esper in the Cave to the Sealed Gate, along with enough elemental protection for Merton in Minerva Ice Shields and a Flame Shield, both went to the Coliseum to get that auto haste reward. Sid defeated the Stooges at the South Figaro Cave for an Illumina, throw Edgar from the Welk spot, and an offering from the Classroom Monster in a Box for the fixed dice that he had, while Keith McRox headed for a nice night at the Opera House for a different Illumina. Keith got 2 more dead checks with that South Figaro Cave, and then a gem box at Zozo Tower, while Sid got Siren at Magitech Factory, which taught Merton, finally leveraging the elemental protections we got at the start of the match, and continued on to get another 2 Espers from that set of checks, with Keith heading to the Edgar loop just ahead of Sid, finding GP Range Shadow from the engine room and an Esper from the Ancient Castle, simultaneously fighting Blue Dragon. Keith got his 6th character first with Dance Cyan at Gal Manor, but was 3 Espers behind since he did not do the Magitech Factory yet. However, he leaned into Cyan's checks to do the dream, getting an Esper, Rage Sabin, and a Behemoth suit. With a fat stack of cash from the minecart ride, Sid went to the auction house for his final Esper to put him in Go Mode, but he only had 7 bosses, so skip was not an option. While Keith was also getting his Go Mode Esper at the auction house, Sid had enough time to walk through Kefka's Tower twice, and only had 1 boss left to down. Sid was able to tank a Quake on Tier 1 because Fixed Dice offering clobbered Short Arm first, but had access to Siren and Instant Death, meaning a much better Tier 2, however losing Lock to Meteor on Tier 3 as Keith took out his last statue boss. Sid unfortunately took an ultimate counter, then went right into the Goner phase, opting not to heal and did not have enough damage to kill Kefka, forcing a reset as Keith was on Tier 2. With Fenrir for calmness and a Flame Shield healing the Atma Weapon offering user after using Merton, Keith was able to take down Kefka, becoming Chupon's pal with a time of 137.19 over Sid's 140.59. It's time for the top plays, and even though Locke steals flags was last week, we had a couple of nice grabs, with Falconhit stealing an elixir from Peepers prior to them falling over and dying, and Green Monkey grabbing a Mega Elixir from Kefka in order to use after Fallen One. Green Monkey was also able to use Sour Mouth in order to confuse Katana Soul for the Self-Slayer Edge to get that offering plus that sweet GP. Another monster in a box, Pugs, gave Jex Varox a 2 Minerva drop, which is pretty unlikely to happen. That's 1/8 times 1/8, that's what, 1/16th? But hey, we all dream about that scenario. Another Minerva drop came from the Coliseum as Taco Mage's AI chose level ? Pearl, which actually did happen to connect and kill the enemy, so go buy a lottery ticket. Lastly is a really nice heads-up play by Drewlith, grabbing the Mirage Vest for calmness protection, and it came in handy with multiple whiffs on Strago to allow his whole party to face off against Final Kefka. There were also some pretty gnarly fails, with Keith McRox wishing he had YNPC set to remove here, trying to get past the Walking Gentleman South Figaro, blocking you from the item shop to get to the weapon and armor shops. Get out of the way, dude! On the other side of the Coliseum AI, Taco Mage lost the battle due to a pep-up Strego lore, sacrificing himself for nothing, and Strego wasn't done doing dumb things as Green Monkey's lore user was confused by a vanilla number 24, and he picked Exploder, but thankfully it was a self-target so he didn't take out any other characters with him. Falconhit attempted to use Sketch for the same type of Katana Soul as Green Monkey did in the top plays, but since this is in the top fails, you know that he was unsuccessful a number of times, resulting in a wipe before getting it first try on the refight. And the biggest fail of the round has to be both Boo and Ensign Wesley running into Siegfried multiple times, with Ensign Wesley even going as far as to paying him a visit in the Phantom Train accidentally. Go, guys. Ha, ha, ha. Anyways, the next round of the Coliseum will feature Realm's Brush with Sketch and a +5 speed and +5 magic power starting buff, with a further +15 magic power reward from the Coliseum to put you at +20 overall. The magic buffs continue with a 7 MP multiplier instead of 5 to learn spells more quickly, and you'll be learning a lot more spells with each Esper teaching 4 to 5 spells instead of the usual 1 to 5, along with multi-summon being on. There aren't any Illuminas or experience eggs though, as we saw in some of these matches, but with access to Owzer's Mansion and the Auction House in World of Ruin, we may see that as a popular opening strat with the buffs to those Esper pickups. That's going to do it for me. I've been TheShwantz27. Until next time.